Happy New Year, Lions fans! And before we get into today's New Year's party episode of Lions of Liberty, I want to make sure you guys know about this amazing promotion we are doing for the last week of 2018, our Christmas bonus that we're giving out for any new supporters on Patreon. Anybody who joins the Lions of Liberty Pride at $5 or higher will get a very special extra gift in addition to our normal perks. So anybody that pledges on Patreon for $5 a month will receive a free Lions of Liberty beer koozie. If you join at $10 a month, you will receive our brand new Pride exclusive Lions of Liberty winter knit cap. You sign up at $15, you will receive a free Lions of Liberty zip up hoodie, brand new in the Lions of Liberty store. And if you sign up at the $25 level, our Mufasa level, where you get to join us for a monthly video conference call, you will receive every single item I just mentioned, in addition to the normal perks, which includes some t-shirts, some beer koozies, etc., and of course, access to all of the amazing bonus content that we produce each and every week. So please do check us out at patreon.com/Lions of Liberty. Enjoy the show, kids.
Welcome to the Lions of Liberty podcast. Here's your host, your guide, your shining beacon of liberty, Marc Claire.
All right, Happy New Year and welcome to, I can't really think of any better way that any of you would want to spend your New Year's Eve than with your favorite libertarian podcasters, the Lions of Liberty. It is indeed our New Year's party here on the eve of the new year, and it wouldn't really be much of a party if I did this alone, so I will bring in, as usual, many of my Lions of Liberty compatriots. I'm going to start with the guy who missed our Christmas party last week, very sadly. I'm pleased to welcome from Leesburg, Virginia, right now. He is known as the godfather of this podcast for turning me on to the ideas of liberty way back in the day. He is the one and only Mr. Howie Snowdon.
Hey, Happy New Year's, Marc, fellow Lions.
Happy New Year's, man.
Marc, what are you drinking tonight? Nobody ever asks you, so.
No one ever does ask me, probably because no one really cares. But I've got a couple things going on. Because I'm really classy and it's a New Year's party, I do have a bottle of champagne that I'm going to pop open in just a minute or two here. And I spare no expense when it comes to champagne. When I go to Ralph's, I get the good stuffs. I get the Cook's Extra Dry. That's very exciting. And because I'm keeping things super classy, very high classy, much to the chagrin of many members of the Lions of Liberty Pride out there who just love IPAs and fancy schmancy beers, I'm drinking some good old American simple Pabst Blue Ribbon here. New Year's Eve. What about you, Howie?
I am drinking something called Viking Blood.
That sounds more like a fancy schmancy type beer.
It's from Denmark. It's a Nordic honey wine with hibiscus and hops added.
Oh, and I'm sounds lovely when you put it that way.
Drinking out of this mug I got at the Renaissance Fair. I never get to use.
Only for this show.
But anyways, actually, I'm watching Alexander Gustafsson's fight later tonight, and he's kind of like a Viking, so pick this up at Whole Foods.
And John Jones has never lost, right? We'll know, people that care about this will know the answer by the time this airs, so we don't need to analyze the fight too much.
Right. The only loss he has previously was he got disqualified for, I don't know,
beating someone up
like
too much.
Illegal move or something. Like
I'm talking now. It's Brian. Hello, it's Brian McWilliams.
My plan was to just talk about UFC with Howie until you got mad and jumped in.
Well, that time is now. Actually, I was supposed to go to that UFC fight in Vegas, and unfortunately, it got moved to LA. When I don't
Ironically, you're now not going because it's right next to your
LA.
house.
Now I'm not going anymore. And because he tested something in his test was off for John Jones. The same steroid he got banned for, he tested for positive again. And they're like, instead of canceling the fight, they're like, we'll just move it to LA.
They don't think he took it again. They think it's just like pulses, like it's going to cycle through a system for years. So that's going to be an issue. But
that's the thing.
So they couldn't get a license in Nevada, but LA is like, sure, you could do it here.
Wow, California must be the one state. This must be the one thing where there's something easier to do in California because of lack of regulations for once.
Oh, and I'm drinking wine.
Drinking wine. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Dangerous game. Not as dangerous as drinking Cook's Extra Dry champagne, but. All right, and lastly, we're going to bring in that smiling man who recently modeled our new zip-up hoodie, which you can find at the Lions of Liberty store at lionsofliberty.store. He is from the city of brotherly love, Mr. J.B. Lubin.
What's up, everyone? I just have to say that's not actually me because I just don't want to take credit from all these hardworking sweatshirt models
it's
out
not,
there.
But a very handsome black gentleman is the model for our new zip-up hoodie, and it does look similar to JB. This is not racism. It's true.
Yeah, at first glance, I thought maybe it was me, but
See, even you weren't sure.
Sometimes you forget.
Yeah, the
you
goatee,
get drunk,
the
you
smile.
do some modeling, and you forget what's up.
For some reason, you can only see the bottom of the model's face when I post it on Facebook. So you have a very similar lower half of the face of the guy who is the model of our zip-up hoodie. So
It certainly is a black bearded face.
pretty
I'll
much.
say that.
now, what are you drinking over there, JB?
I got some Talisker 10 out. It's sitting the spot. It's nice and rough. I've had a tough day. Started drinking at 11:30 actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
What's the
This is gonna be
occasion?
interesting.
I went to Arsenal was playing Liverpool. It was a big match. I thought I'd go out, invite some friends, make a spectacle of it. Arsenal lost 5-1. It was those typical humiliating defeats, that you get from time to time, and not great. But here I am. I got some whiskey to keep me company.
Howie, did you start drinking before or after 11:30 a.m. today?
I started drinking like 5 minutes ago, so.
Oh, all right. So tune in for the bonus show because Howie will be good and sloshed by then.
Yeah. By the way, what is that mug made of? Like rhino foreskin?
It's
So it's definitely a leather. It looks like a leather.
It's mostly leather, except for the bottom is like wood,
Mm.
and it's like there's like a wax drip lining inside of it.
That's kind of interesting. And did you win this at the Renaissance Fair? Or did you just buy it like a commoner?
Now I just bought it like a commoner.
No jousting involved.
Nope.
I did want to share, I think would be a fun Renaissance Fair game that they should invent, which you could play in the bathroom, which is dick jousting, where you just whip your cock out, you run at each other, you try to knock each other outside of the urinal. I tried it before. It was not a success, but that wasn't
You've
at a
tried it
Renaissance
before?
Fair. Well, that wasn't at a
Tried
Renaissance
this?
Fair. That
You
was
tried
just
this
a,
dick jousting you speak of?
Yeah. It was at the, remember we went to see the American Gladiators taping? I did it there with Hulk Hogan.
If anybody was wondering how long it would take for my dad to shake his head while listening, the answer is 5 minutes.
Was it
That-
you that pissed next to Hulk Hogan, Mark? Or was
If
that somebody
that's
else?
if that story is
No,
true,
I
that's
never, I
amazing.
never peed next to Hulk Hogan. I just thought I did.
Somebody
once.
we know did. Back when he was hosting that show.
All right. So, because it is a New Year's party, because I have this Cook's Extra Dry Champagne, first order of business is to pop that champagne live on air. So, also, another great reason to join Patreon, besides the massive, massive merchandise we're giving away for less than 24 hours, if you're just hearing about it on this show, is because the aforementioned Howie will be at his drunkest during the bonus show, which we do every time we do a Libertarians in Living Rooms Drinking Liquor show like we're doing right now. We'll all be our drunkest, really, but, Howie's the most entertaining when he's drunk. What am I going to say? So tune in for that. Check out patreon.com/Lions of Liberty for all the bonus content that we do here and to get some free merch. Again, if you donate or pledge $5 a month or higher, you'll get a free koozie, or not or higher. If you pledge $5 a month, you get a free koozie. $10 a month, you'll get a brand new wool knit cap, Lions of Liberty winter cap. $15 a month, you get our new zip-up hoodie. And if you pledge $25 a month or higher, you get everything I just mentioned, in addition to the regular perks, of which there are aplenty. So please do check out our Patreon and tune into all the great bonus content and help support this show. Now, I don't know about you guys. I think in the last week of podcasting, because unlike a lot of other libertarian podcasts out there, the Lions of Liberty, we don't take breaks. We don't take holiday breaks. We got Chris Spangle takes a little 2-week vacation every winter. Jason Stapleton's on break, even though he's not a libertarian podcast anymore. Tom Woods takes a break. All these podcasters take a break. Meanwhile, we stay here drinking and talking about liberty. We huddle ourselves in our individual liberty dens and keep this thing going. So I think we've probably done pretty much enough show recap or politics recap or liberty recap in the last week of shows, between Naughty or Nice, between Brian and John going through everything and anything Trump on Electric Liberty Land, and between Brian and John also going through everything criminal justice on Felony Friday. So floor's kind of open, guys. What do you guys want to talk about? Is there anything we have not covered in the last week of recapping everything? And please do go and click back on your podcast feed for all the great 2018 recap shows we've done in the last week. But what else is out there? What have we not uncovered in the last week? What's been missing from the conversation? Anybody? Brian, you're thinking hard over there?
I'm trying to think. It's going very slowly for me today. All the thinking is going at a molasses drip pace.
How about we start things off real easy? You guys see any good movies this year?
Yeah.
Screw Liberty Talk. Let's just have fun.
Dude, I just watched that Bird Box on Netflix the other day.
No spoilers.
Terrible.
I'm planning to watch that later.
It's terrible. Don't bother.
I liked it. I thought it was pretty good.
That's a spoiler.
Really? Spoiler alert. It fucking sucks. Also, spoiler alert. You never get to see the goddamn monster.
Oh, come on. Don't spoil that.
Well, it's not. There's nothing to spoil because there's nothing there to see ever.
Dude,
something not happening is
It's
also
like the end of
spoiler.
Contact, where it's like, oh, it's your stupid dad. Spoiler alert.
Now you're spoiling Contact, too.
That's another horrible movie.
It's better to leave it to your imagination. Come on.
No, it's not. It's never better to leave it to your
really
imagination.
her dad, though. That wasn't her dad.
Well, the alien was it's like, oh, it's my dad, the alien. Oh, it was so stupid. And
I think you
also,
misunderstood
nothing is
Contact.
better left to the imagination. That's why porn is a thing.
This morning I watched that.
Speaking of your imagination, did you hear about the Black Mirror movie that came out? That's like a choose your own adventure.
Yeah, I watched
movie?
that this morning.
No. Oh,
You watched it?
Yeah,
Is it good?
The idea is kind of novel, but it wasn't that cool. I don't think.
No.
No, it was interesting, but I liked Bird Box better.
I like movies I don't have to participate in.
And
all movies are now on the Bird Box standard.
And I liked Aquaman better. And I'm going to see the Spider-Man movie tomorrow.
Spider-Verse is great. Spider-Verse is one of my favorite movies I've seen this year. Easily. In fact, I think all my favorite movies I've seen this year are comic book related movies, whether it's Avengers Infinity War. Well, I also liked A Quiet Place. Anybody see Quiet Place?
Yeah, Quiet
Thought
Place
it was fantastic.
So a lot of
Isn't that what Bird Box is a ripoff?
no,
of?
the
Quiet Place?
Bird Box is based on a book that came out before A Quiet Place. So if anything, A Quiet Place ripped off
excuse
Bird
me.
Box.
Wait, is it the same plot as Quiet Place?
They're pretty different.
No, but
If anything, Bird Box
It's
is a
pretty much the
complete
same
ripoff
plot,
of The
only the
Happening.
sense has changed.
So in Quiet Place,
Instead of
you got to
hearing,
be
it's
quiet,
sight.
and in this, like, you can't look at something. It's like
Yeah, the sense has changed. That's the difference. Like,
So it's a blind place,
So-
basically.
yeah, exactly.
only when you're
Soon
outside.
there's going to be one where you can't like taste anything or you're going to die. You know?
A tasteless palate place.
So if you had to give up 1 sense, what would it be?
Ooh, that's a good question.
If I had
Not
to go,
sight.
what,
I like
say
seeing
it again.
things.
My wife was talking to
If
me.
you had
from
to
the
give
damn
up
doorway.
1 sense, what would it be?
Oh, well, Brian would give up hearing then, so he doesn't have to hear his wife all the time.
I'd give up hearing
Oh,
too.
Zing.
I would give up. God, I didn't even know. That's so tough.
I probably would give up hearing, actually. That
yeah,
probably is
I
the-
think
the
I'd still rather see than hear. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's true. If I had to give up one, it would be hearing.
Yeah,
It's
'cause
just
you
funny to
still
say
read
as a
closed
podcaster
captioning.
that we're all going to give
Yeah,
up
how
hearing.
about that? Yeah, as a podcaster, it's like hearing, not
Well,
that
I
important.
definitely
if you
wouldn't
haven't
give
noticed-
up feeling.
I do much more talking than listening anyway, so it wouldn't really impact my podcast at all.
If the devil Mephisto ever approaches us and grants us that we have to give up one of these senses, then we're all going to be. This podcast is going to sound really weird because it's probably hard to talk when you can't hear, right? That's why.
Yeah.
I don't know.
People,
Is
I'm
it
not going
harder
to do an
to talk?
impression.
I mean, if you already knew how to talk and then you lost your hearing, it probably you could still talk pretty understandably. Like it's a lot easier than if you never knew what
it's
talking
muscle memory
sounded
at that point, right?
Yeah.
You've been doing it for so long.
Yeah, it's like riding a
All
bike.
right. Well, maybe next year we'll all be deaf podcasters. See.
Well, gotta have goals.
Let's all get surgery to remove our eardrums and see how a podcast sounds after that.
Well, here's a question.
Just
Talk
need a
about-
screwdriver for that.
talking
Well,
about
we could just have a
movies.
voice, one of those like Google Voice things. We could just type out a podcast like via Messenger,
That's
and it could translate it into some computerized voice. Like, who's that guy? I almost said Christopher Walken. Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Hawking.
Stephen Walken.
Just like
That's who it is.
just like Christopher Walken.
Hey, I'm stuck here in this wheelchair, talking on a keyboard.
I'd rather it be
Sounds like
like
Bernie Sanders.
Alexa's voice or something.
You guys will soon learn, if you haven't already, that all my impressions are different variations of Bernie Sanders.
Yep. So wait,
There's my
here's
real
a
Bernie
question.
Sanders. There's my
here's
Christopher Walken Bernie Sanders. Donald Trump Bernie Sanders. All the same guy.
So this new year starting up, we're
Tony Danza.
just about to jump into the 2020 primary season. I guess all the Democrats are going to be coming out.
Ooh, all right.
I'm pumped to see the carnage that's going to unfold with all these Democrats.
Oh my God,
attacking
they're
each other.
going to. I think the progressive wing and the establishment wing are going to savage each other, and it's going to be awesome to watch.
Oh yeah.
I think that's a fun direction to go down. Why don't we look ahead to the year to come and make some predictions? And we can start off with whatever we want, but why don't we kind of go down this rabbit hole a little bit of what's going to happen? This will be when we're seeing presidential announcements be made for all parties, I guess. There will be libertarian presidential candidates popping up, I imagine. But really, let's be honest, the main focus in the media and everywhere are going to be who's going to be the Democratic challenger to Donald Trump in 2020, assuming he is running for re-election. Some people think he's already announced, I think, a re-election campaign, but hasn't officially said he is running. But most people assume he is going to run again. Some people think he might just step down and do one term, but I don't see that happening personally.
I hope Donald Trump goes to like a pro wrestling thing where it's like he packs all his bags up and he takes one step out the White House, then he goes, no, and he walks back and turns around and goes inside just campaigning, just to fuck with people even more.
That'd be awesome.
Love it. It's the natural showman.
So I saw somebody who's calling for like a Biden-Romney unity ticket to like challenge Trump.
Jesus. And guess where they'd probably run? On the freaking Libertarian Party ticket somehow.
Oh my God.
The Mormon and the Molester. Mormon Molester 2020.
No, I did see in the news though that the Democrats are all upset that the like top 3 people that are polling that might run are all white.
I know.
Old white men.
I thought what's her face was going to run.
Oh yeah, I think Kamala.
Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez.
No, did you see Vox was trying to get her to run for president? It's like, are you fucking kidding me?
First of all, you need to check the age requirement.
Yeah, she's
on
not
that,
old
she's
enough.
like
Yeah,
28.
I don't think she's even old enough yet.
And they're like, we got to change that. Like, yeah, let's keep dumbing down society. Let's make sure we have the worst possible candidates. Let's get all the idiots in office.
Be careful what they wish for, because
honestly,
if they lower that requirement too much, they're going to have President Barron Trump before they know it. So
yeah, honestly,
be careful, everybody.
I used to, before I was 35, I used to think 35 was kind of high, but now I'm like, no. It's not even close. Like 35, like...
Well, now that I know other 35-plus-year-olds, I realize
35's bare minimum.
We are not wise enough either to be president. Really, you should... I only want 80-year-old plus men to be president. Not just men. They can be women. Not sexist, but I am ageist.
I don't want 80. I don't want too old. I don't want to be so out of touch that they ask ridiculous questions about how to use like their phone. It's like 50 to 60 is a sweet spot. Once you get to like 70 plus, you start to like kind of not be in tune with what's currently going on.
Yeah, but JB, you're missing the point. I want a president that can barely do anything.
See, it's funny. I've got a coworker that thinks there should be not an age limit, you can't be older than whatever, because he doesn't want people voting on things that aren't going to be alive to have it affect them. I disagree.
Does it age
you
limit
can't
on
predict
voting?
that people are going to die in the next 2 years or 4 years every time.
Yeah, some of these positions, yeah.
And that's why I said to him, we may be the last generation to ever die, too. So, but
that's a good prediction.
But I would agree with. I don't care if Ron Paul is 110. I would still vote for him.
This is true.
I don't know. I don't want any artificial limits.
Well, I think we all know that Ron Paul can do no wrong. He can be president and emperor for life.
What we need to do is take Ron Paul's brain out and put it in a goddamn robot already. Why is somebody not working on this?
Who says nobody's working?
China is, at least.
Crack. Where's our transhumanist? What's his?
Zoltan Istvan.
Zoltan. Yeah, get Zoltan on it.
Big Zoltan Istvan fan.
Is he running again?
Who knows? He likes to run for office and talk about humans becoming robots. I'm a big fan of Zoltan Istvan. I like him. He's not a perfect libertarian. I got to interview him at the LNC, which is probably the highlight of my year, is being able to be on scene both at the LNC and at PorkFest, and actually recording podcasts in person with, not just with, people I've interviewed, people I interviewed at the LNC, but also just friends of ours that we were never in person friends with until we met at PorkFest, like Johnny Adams, Roger Paxton, Chris Bengal. That was probably the highlight of my whole year, podcast or otherwise. One of those trips.
I agree. My favorite podcast, even though I completely blacked out for half of it, I think, was definitely the Whiskey Challenge at PorkFest. That was a hell of a time.
It's so good that we had an internal debate of whether it should air at all.
It was worth it. It did. You need to see the madness. The method behind the madness of the Lions of Liberty.
It's really something that you had to have been there for, but I guess audio is as close to second as you can get. But it doesn't match being in the room. Yeah. That's on another level.
Well, I've been pushing Roger, man. I told him, I said, we demand that we have our podcast in the downstairs tent, not in the media room, in the downstairs tent this time. If we're going to make a spectacle, if we're going to do another Whiskey Challenge with the Lions of Liberty squad. Well,
I don't know if you ever need to do a Whiskey Challenge again.
Squad versus another squad. So it would be like the 6 of us.
Is this the same day as the beer pong tournament, or
probably 2 different days would be good on that side?
Either way, coming out to PorkFest, folks, because it's going to be fun. Because we will be there, presuming that our Patreon supporters keep on coming, keep on helping us roar into all these events in 2019. And I want to go to some new stuff. I don't know what else goes on out there in Liberty Land, but I want to go to them.
Well, Freedom Fest in Vegas would be good to go to.
Freedom Fest in Vegas.
Does anything happen in DC? You guys come out and visit me.
We could go. Your house? We could go picket outside of some senators'
we could organize End the Fed protest. I went to one of those before.
If there was a good rally, we could definitely justify crashing we can all crash to your house, right, Howie?
Yeah.
He's got the room. We could go into his
great.
podcasting basement.
Just another reason to join the Lions of Liberty Pride and support us on Patreon. Send us to Howie's house so we can have a Liberty slumber party.
We
should do an all-night podcast
telling libertarian ghost stories about the expansion of the Fed, the war state. Like, what's a good? We should actually. That's a funny idea. We should have libertarian ghost stories that people can buy in book form, and they can bring it to their campfires and tell spooky stories with the flash under there.
Are we going to allow one ghost per team for the Liberty Draft?
I believe we should.
I think we have to vote on this issue.
Yeah, we had mentioned it at the tail end.
I'm trying to keep it semi-realistic, at least vaguely.
Hey,
have any of you seen a ghost?
In normal,
if one of you seen a ghost, I'll allow it.
No, I haven't seen a ghost. In normal
what about
politics,
corpse,
though,
we'll just change the name. We've all seen corpses here, okay?
Howie has seen many corpses.
I've seen thousands of corpses. I've never seen one ghost.
To those without context, that would be a really creepy statement.
Yeah. My dad was a funeral director.
Yeah, Howie literally grew up in a funeral home, much like the wrestler The Undertaker.
Did you ever use any of the corpses to put on a puppet show?
Negative.
That you remember.
Too heavy.
Well, the thing about the ghosts, though, is that, look, in political discourse, you're always having ghosts on teams. I mean, fucking the left and the right, they're trotting out Ronald Reagan's ghost all the damn time. The left's always trotting out the New Deal.
It could be someone to invoke in the name of.
Yeah,
that
right?
is a good one.
Exactly.
It's the same thing.
We need that roster spot.
What are some good libertarian ghosts out there? Harry Brown. I'll just reveal it right now. He would be my number one ghost pick.
Hello, this is Ludwig von Mises. That'd be great.
I don't think that's what he sounded like. Like Dracula.
I'd rather Rothbard.
Hello.
This is Ludwig von Mises.
You got Murray Rothbard.
Yeah.
It's actually, the ghost competition might be pretty fierce between Hayek, Mises, Rothbard,
Mark Allen Feldman.
Not a libertarian, but I could see someone picking Ayn Rand.
Definitely. Go Thomas Jefferson. Own some slaves, so that's a problem, but,
he doesn't anymore.
It's very anti-libertarian.
Can't all be perfect. And we each get one non-liberty position to hold, and his was owning slaves. I mean, everybody gets one.
Everybody gets one.
Let's circle back to this this thing we talked about for 1 second, moved on. Who do we think the Democrats are going to put up? Now, if you look at all the various ranking websites out there, I think the biggest names that you see mentioned you get a lot of Joe Biden. Sometimes you hear a little Bernie Sanders. You get a little Bernie Sanders comeback. You of course, even here, believe it or not, you still hear Hillary freaking Clinton.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think she's going to run again.
She would be criminally insane if she were to run again, which is why I think she might.
Yep.
So you hear a lot of buzz about this Beto O'Rourke character, who's, as far as I can tell, his only resume is losing an election to Ted Cruz. So I don't know why people are all excited about this guy, but
I'm literally clicking through
Warren too.
I also think Cory Booker and Kamala Harris are announcing soon, and maybe Elizabeth Warren.
Interesting.
Who the hell is this chick? Senator Amy Klobuchar?
I think you're clicking through the same list that I am on
who the fuck
Kiplinger.com.
is this person? I've never heard of her.
I have no idea.
Sharon Brown?
I hope Tulsi Gabbard runs. I was
going to say she's the only one I've heard rumors of that I would actually I could consider her as someone I could I wouldn't vote for either her or Trump in hardly any circumstance, but I could be like, okay, I wouldn't be upset if you won.
I mean, if the LP put up Bill Weld, I'd vote for her.
I think Tulsi Gabbard is probably more libertarian than Bill Weld.
Oh, hell yeah.
Probably.
Did you guys hear her on Joe Rogan? She doesn't sound that. Yeah. For someone that identifies as a social progressive and a Democrat, she does not. She really hardly sounds like one. I mean, when she actually talks about her positions, she even seemed open to how the free market is a better thing in many areas and how they need to bring that into healthcare, which isn't, a radical statement for most politicians, but for a progressive Democrat, it certainly is.
Yeah, I told you months ago, of all the Democrats, she's the only one that I would want to run, actually, of anyone who's even being spoken about.
Well, guess what? A lot of others are going to run. I think there's going to be a pretty crazy field out there.
Eric Holder is saying, they're saying Eric Holder might run. Hey, that would be ridiculous. See, talk about how many scandals you could just have. Trump would rip him a new one in about 4 seconds, talking about all the gun running scandals and everything else they did, stoking racial hatred in the wake of the shooting in, what was it? The Hands Up, Don't Shoot What the hell is that guy's name?
Oh, Mike Brown?
Yeah, Mike Brown. Like funding people to go and like protest, you know.
It would be so funny if Comey ran. Could you imagine him debating Trump?
Oh, God.
I'm surprised Kamala Harris isn't ranked higher on this list. I thought she would be like number 1 or 2, actually. Because she's clearly gearing up for it. She's a woman of color, which is like exactly what they want. She's outspoken, even if I find her to be obnoxious most of the time. And she's not bad looking. All the things you want in a political candidate. Everything
Pretty
that Hillary
much.
Clinton wasn't.
Yeah.
Problem with Kamala Harris is she's always the subject of these like one of those stupid Facebook channels like now this or whatever videos, and it's always like Kamala Harris owns this guy, and you watch it, you're like, she just said nothing that every other Democrat doesn't say and moved on. Like there was no point was made here.
No, she's just interrupting somebody. It's like owned. Like no, she's just being very rude.
It's kind of like those Ben Shapiro videos, although the difference being he actually makes decent points sometimes. Yeah. You know, it's always like Ben Shapiro owns progressive Democrat, but it's always like a stupid socialist teenager. You never see him debating anyone serious, ever.
Oh, so Jess Mears posted that she thinks that Michelle Obama is going to be the next president.
That's the name that you hear at times.
I don't think Michelle Obama wants to go down that road.
I don't think she'd be dumb enough to run against Trump because let's be honest, they are basically fighting for who gets to. I'm not saying that the Democrat can't win the election. I think it's possible. I think Trump will likely be reelected if he wants to be. But even if you're going to win, you're fighting to get hammered by Donald Trump, the best troll that has ever been seen, who has just, literally destroyed the careers along his pathway. He ended the career of Jeb Bush.
Yep.
I mean, he probably ended the career of Marco Rubio as a presidential candidate just by putting these guys in such a sort of like, I don't even know what the term is, such a light where he looked down on them and they could barely defend themselves. And once you've looked like that on the national stage, I mean, how can anyone take you seriously? No one's going to take Jeb Bush seriously. Please clap ever again. That's just never going to happen.
Well, I could see Trump definitely comparing Michelle Obama to Bigfoot because she's got a little bit of Bigfoot in her. Just saying.
I don't see her running. That's just as likely as Angelina Jolie running, which I did
not
actually
unlikely.
see CNN news reports about that. Yeah, I saw this on CNN that Angelina Jolie is considering running for president.
I'm surprised a lot of people like that aren't throwing their hats in right now. It's like, well, if Donald Trump can be president, I can.
Yeah, pretty much. It's the fucking Wild West out here. Anyone can run for president now.
Did Oprah Winfrey leave the door open? Because I could see Oprah Winfrey doing it. She's like, pardon me, she's like Trump, that she's got the epitome of fuck you money. And, wouldn't have to really give a damn. At this point, nothing's going to make or break her. So I could see her throwing her hat in the ring.
Unless she's got some skeletons.
And she'd probably win. She'd get every woman would vote for her.
Yeah, unless she's got some real serious skeletons in her closet, she would beat Trump, I think.
Well, she did have an abortion at 14, but that's
I don't think anybody cares about that.
No. Plus all that crap that she pushed on people that was completely unfounded in medical science. So there's that.
The school foods.
There's food. There's like bizarre like half medical treatments that she was pushing for years that are just total garbage, like her and Dr. Oz, that are based on complete pseudoscience.
She had a number of snake oil salesmen come in and prance on stage and push their nonsense on people, and gullible housewives just eat that shit up.
Yep, exactly. Plus that whole 1,000 Little Fibers or whatever the fuck it is. What was that book? That was totally fake that she had pushed. Remember, she had the guy on, Stephen Fry, and she had 1,000,000 little fibers.
Yeah. That was a couple of years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, it's back when she still had a TV show.
What was it? It was like 1,000,000 little strings or
something like that. Fibers, yeah, and it's like a completely fabricated
1,000,000 little pieces
book. Yeah. And she's like, he's amazing. He's the best. Everyone buy it. It made the guy
changed my life.
A multi-millionaire, and it turns out it was a total lie. Oprah Winfrey, you idiot.
Ago. This happened in 2005.
Hey, man, it's all ammo for the political gun. Nothing is forgotten.
It's true.
So do you guys think any Republicans will primary Trump?
I think they'd be suicidal to do it. That's where, like Marc was talking about.
That's easy
they are
question.
Pretty dumb.
There's all these libertarian sort of fantasy fanboys out there who are like, Justin Amash is going to primary Trump. Rand Paul is going to primary Trump. No, they're not. Because they're not idiots.
Yeah.
And they know that would... it would destroy them in their own party. It would destroy any positions that they have in their current party. It would not help them in any way. It would not help them with Trump, who Rand Paul actually has a lot of influence over. And it's one of the reasons that I think Trump is bringing troops home from Syria and talking about doing the same in freaking Afghanistan, where we've been for the lifetimes of humans. There are people now serving in Afghanistan that were born when that war started. How insane is that?
That's crazy. By the way, what's your bold prediction on where in the next year, 2019, where will we see more troops deployed or brought home? Question one. And question two, where will we see troops brought home from? Because I have a guess on my end.
These seem like great questions for us to dive into after we take a quick commercial break.
Hey friends, I got to take a quick pause here to tell you about another great libertarian podcast out there. It's called Free Man Beyond the Wall, hosted by the artist formerly known as Mance Rayder, now known simply by his real name of Pete Raymond. And I got to tell you, Pete is a machine. This guy brings you a new episode of his own every single Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and he has done some absolutely fantastic in-depth interviews. He's had on everybody from Ron Paul to Thaddeus Russell to Phil Labonte, the lead singer of All That Remains, a very diverse group of guests, not always libertarians. He also did a great show with a Washington, D.C. insider lobbyist revealing a lot of the dirt that goes on behind the scenes in DC. He has done so many interviews that I have just said, darn, I wish I did this one myself. So I really do want to highly recommend checking out Free Man Beyond the Wall. You can find it over at freemanbeyondthewall.com, as well as iTunes, Stitcher, and wherever the heck you download this show.
All right, and we are back. And since Brian has taken over hosting the show, I will let you propose the proposition. What did you set up right before the break, and we'll answer, because I already forgot.
Well,
the commercial.
I had expertly teased the question, which is, will the U.S. deploy more troops or bring home more troops in 2019? Question one. And question two, were they to bring the troops home, where do you think they will come home from?
Can I start? Because I never get to start.
Sure.
I do think more will come home than get deployed. I think libertarians that are very anti-war will be largely disappointed, though. I think we'll see the troops come home from Syria. I think all of them will come home. I think he is serious about that. There's no reason for us to be there. The only reason ever for us to, not legitimately, but the only way you could even parcel out a reason to be there at all at this point was to combat ISIS, who we helped to fund and start in the first place. Yep. But if you're going to be there, that reason is pretty much, out of contention right now. So I do think he will follow up on that. I don't think he's anti-war by any means, or even anti-empire, but I do think he is pragmatic in a sense that when he doesn't see a value in troops somewhere, even if it's not a value in the sense that we would line up with the values, he's going to remove them. And I think he's going to do that in Syria. I don't think that's just a tease. And I think he will reduce the troops in Afghanistan. I don't think he's going to do a full pullout. But I think we might be, from a libertarian angle, not that thrilled if we're really looking at things. Even in 2018, civilian deaths were at an all-time high because he pretty much let the generals run free and do whatever they think they have to do in whatever theaters of war that we're in. Theaters of war that include freaking Somalia right now. We're in Somalia. No, nobody's talking about that. We're in many locations across the world, and I don't think that we're going to see any sort of, libertarian anti-war wave. We'll just see a few headline troop deployments, or not deployments, but removals that libertarians should rightly rejoice and be happy about. But I don't think we're going to see some massive shift in what our true foreign policy is. Love to be proven wrong.
That was long.
Yeah. I roll.
Mark,
well, I never get to answer questions. I'm
just going to agree with you, but in addition to that, I think we'll see U.S. involvement in Yemen come to an end.
I heard I read something about how they stopped refueling
they stopped
Saudi
that.
jets.
Some people said, well, the Saudis are good enough to do it on their own now. But whatever the case, I also think the Saudis are getting a lot of pressure. I think everybody just wants it to be over. I think.
But that wasn't that a Congress-backed effort? Wasn't led by Trump? To get out?
It was the Senate passed a resolution, but it has no weight until Congress passes something
The Senate
similar.
thing didn't do anything. This was Trump on his own, and there's rumors that they kind of wanted to wrap up our involvement in like 30 days or so. That they see this as bad. They don't want any part of it. And apparently the Saudi prince also realizes they're not going to win. They're stuck there. He thought it would be easy like we thought Iraq was easy. And he's just getting so much bad publicity between that and the Khashoggi thing. I think hopefully it would be a miracle, but it'd be awesome. And I think it's a very good chance it's going to happen, that the war in Yemen will come to an end this year.
Well, there's no winning a war where the end goal is war. The end goal of the Yemen war is to have a war for him to prop up and say, look what we're doing in Yemen. We're battling these guys who are proxies of Iran, yada, yada, yada. That's the story anyway. And so, yeah, if the end goal is a war, you can never win the war, and you can only win it by losing it, by ending it yourself.
Yeah, I guess that's why we've been in Afghanistan for 17 years. I don't know what the objective was. What was the end game?
In theory, it was to remove the Taliban government, so it was no longer a safe haven for Al Qaeda. That government was removed like about 3 months in. I mean, that's long been done.
And today, in 2018,
what have we been doing for the last 16.9 years or whatever?
JB,
hanging out
right now.
Kicking sand.
The Taliban runs more of Afghanistan now than they did in 2001 when we.
Yeah, exactly.
That is the grand irony. Any of you who read Scott Horton's amazing book, Fool's Errand, which I can't recommend highly enough. In fact, if you're going to buy it, you may as well go through our Amazon link, which you can find at lionsofliberty.com/Amazon. But that is the most must-read book, I'd say, of last year, is Fool's Errand by Scott Horton. Gets into every little detail of the Afghanistan war. And, what we just know, that we've been at war for 17 years and been in that country, the base level is horrific enough. But when you get into the details of this thing, it really is just horror upon horror upon horror, and it's all happening with the money that comes out of our paychecks every week. It's despicable.
Yep. I'll add in that I think there will be less troops deployed than brought home. And I actually could see, I don't know, I just have a strong gut feeling that the way things are progressing quickly in between South and North Korea, that we actually might see a reduction in the troops that are stationed there as well. So something like, 40,000 troops there. I can definitely see them bringing home at least half those troops.
I don't know that they'd bring home half, but yeah, I think you might be right. The only place where I'm worried about, I don't think it'll happen, but the only place I would even be worried about deploying troops is if some shit happened in Ukraine.
Yeah, agreed.
Whether it's false flag, just trying to start shit with Russia, deep state kind of nonsense, or what, I think we need to look out for that. Hopefully nothing happens.
The Ukraine's really pushing for it. I mean, I was reading something, I think, from the president or prime minister, where they have over there, saying, like, hey, we want American troops over here. I'm like, no.
I feel like that's definitely a 2019 flashpoint. But just like with the end game, I just don't understand what Russia's end game is. What's their objective? Are they trying to retake Ukraine and make it part of the Russian state? What is their objective? Are they just trying to piss off the West?
No, see, I think if a war were to start there, it would be our deep state making it, pushing it. I don't think Russia's going to start this. It's not going to be a Russia started thing.
Russia already started it by invading half of Ukraine.
Right.
No,
What are you talking about?
That was an area where Russians lived, and they didn't want to be part of Ukraine. And never mind.
I think that's a little hazy as far as who in that region didn't. What was that region like? The Crimea? The Crimea?
Yeah,
region?
they
voted the war version of she was dressed like she was asking for it.
I think they voted to be part of
Ukrainians
Russia or something.
Dressing like they wanted to be invaded.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought they voted to be part of Russia.
I heard there was some nominal voting after the Russian occupation. Troops came in and they held a referendum after Russian troops have already pretty much stationed themselves around Crimea.
Being run by actual Nazis now that we put into power after a coup that we started. Actual Nazis, descendants.
Where is Ukraine?
Yeah.
Is this conspiracy corner now? Is this true?
It's true, but whatever.
Well, tell me about it then.
Let's hear it.
I've heard of it.
I don't know a ton about it, but we fomented a coup there, and we put into power people that are actual Nazis.
I too have
they
heard
have to be dead by now, right? If you mean literal,
they have Nazi beliefs.
The Nazi party,
they have Nazi
to
beliefs,
be
but they're
100 years
also
old.
the descendants of actual Nazis and still hold the Nazi beliefs that their parents and grandparents held.
You guys inspired me. I'm going to email Scott Horton, and I'm going to have him on the show sometime in the next month or so, and I'm going to do a whole show because we always talk about foreign policy. Almost every foreign policy show, for understandable reason, has been about Afghanistan or somewhere in the Middle East, somewhere war on terror related. So I'm going to have him on to talk about the Russia-Ukraine situation. So there's the first thing you can look forward to in 2019.
Excellent.
I'm pre-promising an interview I've not booked yet, but if I know Scott like I think I do, he's willing to come talk about
the first thing I always look forward to in 2019 is waking up the morning after the 4th of July, which is never a sure thing.
You know what I look forward to is hearing how hungover you sound on your first show of 2019.
Oh God, it's gonna be fucking horrible. Get ready for a 15-minute Electric Liberty Land coming up this
somehow
week.
This happened 2 years in a row, but my last Monday show was on a Monday, which was on New Year's Eve. Somehow that happened again. Somehow the years lined up the same exact way. I don't know how. But the same exact dates are happening for those shows. So Electric Liberty Land is going to air on the 2nd, which I assume, or no, on the 3rd, I believe, right?
No, it's no,
the
I
second.
think it airs
on
the 2nd. Yeah, I have to record it on the 1st, which really blows. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be a horrible show.
I think that's the best part, though. Isn't that what we all love about the show now?
It's going to be me reading, no analysis. It's going to be me reading the emails that Howie sends out, which he probably won't even send an email that day. But I'll just be reading the news headlines verbatim and not giving any commentary.
I think I would listen to
Bernie Sanders says Charmin is the best toilet paper. Next story.
Is that a callback to one of your very first skits on Electric Liberty Land? Your Bernie Sanders toilet paper skit?
Oh, that was funny. I completely forgot I even did that. I need to do more
Starring
skits.
Yours truly as Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, I forgot. I need to do more skits. Actually, I would say my favorite Electric Liberty Land this year, we're talking about favorite podcast, was definitely the one with the G.I. Joe song about helping Afghans rape children. That was a good episode.
I'm not clamoring for more skits, but I do want more songs this year. More songs.
All right, I pledge
definitely more songs.
To do more songs.
I vote for more songs as well.
All right.
In fact, I believe you just have to write a song every week.
Oh, it's brutal. That's too much
work.
Pure Imagination song. Was that from this year? Your Pure Imagination parody?
I think that was this year. I don't know. Joey Meyer found it for me, and I'll have to check and see what he said, like what episode it was.
Well, it was great.
Thank you.
That.
This was a pretty good year. My favorite things about all three of you guys' shows. Yeah, Odie, not you, JB. But Mark, I love Libertarians of Living Rooms drinking liquor. I especially liked when we had Roger Paxson on, or when Johnny Rocket and Raylene were on. That was awesome time.
Always fun.
ELL, I really like the controversy got started with Owen Benjamin and that lefty comedian. Yeah, that was enjoyable. And then Felony Friday, I really liked hearing Juanita Broderick and Lynn Ulbricht. Those are some.
Yeah.
Those are my Lions Liberty highlights, I think, of this year.
I also really liked on Felony Friday, there was that one gal who was busted for like slinging drugs, and her husband like ratted her out and didn't even go to jail, and she spent like 15 years in prison. Yeah,
that was tragic.
That was a crazy episode.
He's had some crazy stories, and I think it's been a really good shift on Felony Friday to make it more about the stories, because those are things that you can really share with anybody out there, regardless of political belief. And by the end of that, they're going to be thinking about the system differently, one way or the other. I mean, there's just no way you could hear these stories and not think something is wrong if this person went through this.
By the way, speaking of Felony Friday, so I was playing Is It a Crime with John, obviously, and I totally forgot because Dan Smots did the theme song for it. And that son of a bitch wedged in a mention for his own podcast in the "Is It a Crime" song.
You just noticed that
when he first wrote that song, the podcast had not come out yet.
Really?
That's super slick pre-marketing, right there.
Yeah, I thought he did it intentionally. I guess not.
Well, we may as well give him a free plug. The System is Down. Check it out. It's a great show. They just did the Downey Awards.
Yeah.
I can listen to that.
I don't know when it's going to release, but I'm going on next week to talk about Freemasonry too. If anybody wants to hear about that.
Why not? I'll listen in.
I do want to hear about that. I want to hear Howie talk about anything.
Well,
which is why I think in 2019, here's my first prediction, that we're going to debut a Howie Snowdon hosted show for Patreon only. I think that's where it's going to start.
Howie's Basement.
I could maybe do that. Patreon only. That sounds like it doesn't have a set schedule.
Yeah, like once a month ish. Once a month, kind of like our Conspiracy Corner schedule, our League of Liberty schedule. It's once a month ish.
And you know,
you can handle that schedule.
I think Felony Friday is the most important show that we do right now, but to me, foreign policy is a bigger issue, so I could potentially have an even more important show. I don't know.
Are you volunteering a foreign policy show?
No, I need to get my facts straight first. I need to find out for sure if these Nazis in Ukraine are for
real. Or is this
real.
just going to be Conspiracy Corner 2?
I would love to hear a one-on-one show. It's just Howie and Scott Horton every month talking about foreign policy and conspiracy overlap, and they just go for about probably 5-6 hours.
I have an idea for a show in the same vein of overlap. I think Howie should record a show. He should be blackout drunk and record a show half an hour, and then sober rebut himself.
Oh, that would be good. I like that.
He can just rage on in a liquor-fueled haze and then see what he wants to argue about with himself later. Be great.
I like it.
This is real live booking you're getting. Since I said that I should have Scott Horton on, I literally emailed him as we were recording this to ask him about coming on to talk about Russia, Ukraine, and I got a classic Scott Horton response. Sure, man.
That's awesome.
So yeah, we're doing that show next month. Look out for it.
All right.
I should reach out to Owen Benjamin to do a conspiracy corner that we could run as a main show.
Oh,
a mainstream
you should
ELL
get him
with Owen,
on
because he is
for,
huge on the moon landing. He's been going off about the moon landing a lot lately.
I wonder if he believes in that conspiracy theory that Michelle Obama's a tranny.
I'm sure he does. I think he was posting about it.
Because I know transgender stuff is a big thing with him, so I don't know.
If there were ever a conspiracy that had Owen Benjamin written all over it, it would be Michelle
really.
Obama is a transvestite.
I don't even know where to begin with.
Who somehow faked the moon landing.
I don't think that. I do not think she is a tranny, or trans.
Well, as I told you, I do think she is at least part Sasquatch.
I also apologize if you're not supposed to say the word tranny. What do you say? Transgender?
See her walking through the woods like that?
You're probably not supposed to say a lot of the things.
Yeah,
we say.
tranny is bad.
Really? Damn it. I like them too.
It's just shorter. I don't have time to say transgender every time.
It's too many syllables. They need a really good word that we can respectfully say. That doesn't mean we don't like you. It means we're cool with you. But what's? Tell me the word. I think there is a word.
Is it fruit?
No.
You
I don't
say
think
that
that's
anymore
it,
either.
No, I think it's just transgender, but we need a shorter one.
I don't even know. That's so
Trans.
like old and backwards. It's like reverse, where it's like, oh, this old man's so cute. That's how old that is.
Trans is short.
Yeah, trans is. Yeah, exactly. Well, what's a tranny and trans? I don't know why tranny is even a negative connotation, really. It's just, I don't know. I guess whitey. Adding a Y to anything, I guess, makes it
Anytime you're
bad.
doing E on the end of it,
Yeah.
it just doesn't sound
Yeah.
good. Whether it's a color E, a tran and an E.
Yeah. Hey, drunkie.
Yeah, there's nothing good about that E.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with nannies, though.
The E is always
Except the
condescending.
nanny
It's a
state,
fact.
Howie.
Oh,
the most
Marky.
evil one of all.
Howie, even Howie is condescending.
Damn it.
Just saying your name.
It's Howard.
For now on, you will now be known as only Howard Snowdon. When we want to respect you, when we don't, you'll just be Howie.
Yeah, I prefer the full.
So you're Howie.
I prefer
We could call him Ward or Woody.
Howard John Snowden the Fourth.
And
Whenever I hear dead silence, I just wait till Brian interrupts it because he can't take it. He can't stand it.
I hate it.
I usually edit out all the silence, but when you get mad at it, I have to leave it in.
Well, if I had known that, I would have taken my time and let it really linger like a Cranberries song.
All right, what else do we bat around? We did get a few suggestions from the Patreon folks over at the Pride about some things to talk about, but we're not going to do that. We're going to save that for the bonus show because they all get to listen to it anyway. So we're going to dive into some Patreon suggestions in a minute, but what else should we discuss as we wind things down here? Why don't we discuss our specific plans a little bit for the new year? I do think we'll have some kind of Howie Snowdon, at least Patreon show, I think, sometime in 2019. I think that's quite possible. Heck, maybe even a JB Lubin hour. Who knows? Who knows where things
Can you imagine if someday we had a
knows?
podcast 7 days a week?
I mean, it's not impossible.
How many of
There's-
us are there?
no,
7, 6, 5?
There's 6 of us.
It's
Well,
a lot.
well, we need to
it's
take
a
the
lot
Lord's
of effort.
We need to take
man,
the
do
Lord's
a
Day off
podcast.
anyway, so 6 days a week would be.
Yeah.
The Lord's-
Well, we could each,
That's
if,
fair
if all
enough,
6 of
yeah.
us did one podcast once a week, and then we also all collectively did a Libertarians in the Living Room drinking liquor once a week, then we would have 7 days.
We should just do a 3-hour Joe Rogan style podcast with all of us on it once a week and then cut it into several pieces.
Ooh.
Or just air it once as one big
Yeah.
show and change the format entirely.
Well, I think as I have mentioned this before, but Jason Carrier has really been pushing me, one of our high level patrons, and he's been pushing me to do the idea I had for Do Nothing Man, which I think I might try to make some skits about and put them out on Patreon.
I don't know what that is.
It's basically the concept that you need a superhero who does absolutely nothing, like Ron Paul was Dr.
right,
No, and it's
yeah.
just that, it's like, because you think about everything, like literally every single thing the government does makes everything a million times fucking worse than if they did nothing at all. So this guy's just Do Nothing Man, where you trot out like whatever the plan is, they'll make it worse, and then Do Nothing Man just does nothing, and it's much better. Saves the day.
That's the hard thing about communicating libertarian solutions to people is often they're like, so what would you do about this thing? And I'd just be like, I wouldn't do that first thing.
Yeah. Wouldn't do
Like,
that.
oh, that's it. Like, oh, what would you do about the troops in this country? I'd be like, I wouldn't have sent them there.
No.
That's
So
why
you
it's
just want to
a
let
problem.
these people die? You want to let Assad kill his own people? Yeah. Still my problem.
I wouldn't
the Civil
personally
War
phrase
wouldn't
it
have
that
started
way.
if we didn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't phrase it that way, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, most people don't understand even why we got into whatever the thing is. We're in Syria because we created ISIS and started a civil war in Syria. So that's why our troops are there. Yep. It's not because there was this bad thing happening and then we graciously came in to try to help one side that's better or worse than the other. And in fact, the side we're helping is the Islamic terrorists.
Yeah.
So
we're helping
Obama.
the terrorists to try to overthrow the secular government. Sorry, there's a fucking
why is that so
mosquitoes.
funny, Howie?
There's mosquitoes flying around here. I'm trying to catch them.
Yeah,
I
I was
don't
just
even
laughing
understand
at,
it's
for
cold
those
out.
with that video, I was laughing at Brian trying to catch mosquitoes in his,
Well,
I was
those
trying
of
to
that
do it
video is
quietly, so
everybody.
I couldn't clap to do it, so I was trying to grab him quietly and pull him in and squish him in my hand.
It seems like a good time to mention that to see the video of this, you can join Patreon. You can join the Pride at the $10 a month level. We do have a little higher tier for the video, folks, but you get to see us record this thing. What more could you ever want to do on your New Year's than sit around watching us drink, recording a show? I can't think of anything.
Nope.
So my goal, I'm going to be turning 40 this year, but by the end of this year, I'm going to be in the best shape of my life ever.
That was my goal by 42, is to be in the best shape of my life. I've got
Yeah, I
less than
should
2
have
years
started
left.
sooner, but I'm going to start on January 1st, and we'll see.
I'm also taking a few weeks off drinking January 1st. Unless the Eagles make the playoffs. Then I gotta drink
yeah,
on Sunday.
you got to.
So you guys are taking a month off of drinking?
Well, my sister's coming to visit me in the
said
middle of the
none of
month,
us.
so I'll drink that weekend. But I usually try to take a month off to detox, just because going into, I probably drank easily just myself 8 to 10 liters of alcohol in the past 2 weeks.
Wouldn't
easily.
you like
Fair
to
enough.
see?
Of
Wouldn't you?
just grain alcohol.
I'm not putting those types of numbers up, so I can understand now why you might want to take a.
I need a break.
I wonder-
I need to take a nice, relaxing time off. Let my liver cells regenerate.
Wouldn't you like to see if they could pour all the alcohol you ever drank into swimming? It's like swimming pools. How many would fill up?
I want to see 2 swimming
There would
pools. I want
definitely
one.
be many swimming pools for any one of us, let alone all of us.
Oh yeah, I want one swimming pool with the alcohol, and I want another swimming pool like Scrooge McDuck, full of the money that I spent on alcohol, just to see that add up.
By the way, if there's any reason to
Could you
support us,
imagine if you had that money back?
Oh my god!
if there's any reason to
$1
support us on Patreon, it's to see the glass that I'm drinking my champagne out of.
It is lovely. Did you buy? I presume you bought that just for tonight.
Yeah, I did. I bought it at Ralph's for
Let's see everybody's
$4.
glasses. Here's my glass.
And nobody describe anybody's glass. Make them pay.
Clink.
There we go.
Ooh.
Cheers. Let's all cheers.
Everybody's
Let's
got
do
nice
all-
glasses.
Yeah, Solange.
All right, I'm tapping my microphone.
Let's throw of you.
And as
Kampai.
Mises would say, Prost.
Cheers. Now, who brought me back to be on the Liberty team? What is this? All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap up pretty soon, the regular show. I'm going to get everybody's final thoughts on the year past, and the year forward in just a moment. But before we do that, I know John Odermatt is not on this show, but he is on the show because he's got a quick word from one of today's sponsors.
Do you want a libertarian message in your inbox every single day for the next year? Do you want philosophical ammo for your next Facebook debate, inspiration for those days when freedom feels out of reach, or just a jump-off point for teaching liberty through music? Nikki P. from the Sounds of Liberty podcast has joined up with friends Luke Tatum of the Culture of Peace podcast and Sherry Voluntary. They've compiled a list of 365 liberty-themed songs. They've done the legwork. They pontificated on some of the greatest messages music has to offer the liberty movement. Every day for the next year, you'll get a new song with historical details, lyrical highlights, links, and libertarian analysis to dazzle and educate. So in order to get in this program, you got to join by December 31st. And you're going to do that by going to soundslike.libertypodcast.com/365.
All right, yeah, and definitely check out Freedom 365, the awesome project being put on by Nick Picone and the fine folks at the Sounds Like Liberty podcast. It's a cool idea. You got a new song in your browser, in your email every single day, and all sorts of liberty ammo to use in conversations, as John just described to you. And I only ran that promo, no, not because they're paying us to run it, because I wanted John to be a part of this show in some way, shape, or form. Although really, us hyping up his show and telling him how great he was, that was probably more than enough already.
Fuck John.
Does Rush have 365 songs?
They must, or else how else would they be putting this together? You should go on that show, Howie.
I should. I'd like to.
You probably have been. I don't even know.
Nope.
You're the prime candidate.
Oh, actually,
all right,
somebody
Nick, you
was
heard it here
trying
first. Bring
to
Howie
say,
on.
someone's just trying to say I should go on some show called Fagcast.
Yeah, it's the okay. Well, one of our Patreon supporters, Coleman, wanted us to talk about up and coming podcasters in the libertarian movement, up and coming figures. I don't know that many because, believe it or not, I don't pay attention to that much stuff outside of the time I spend on the podcast and the research I have to do for that. I get all my news from Electric Liberty Land and from Howie's emails, which you get if you join the Pride for $15 a month or higher. You get daily emails expertly sourced by our information expert, Howie Snowdon. But that's basically where I get all my news. So I'm not really in the loop on a lot of, I don't know, maybe a lot of the rising figures or what have you. But I did hear the Friends Against Government is what that stands for. Right. The Friends Against Government podcast. I heard an episode they had Chris Spangle on. That was a good show. There's also, what's this McFlugel fella? McFlugel, the Rollo and Slappy show.
So I heard, though, that the Friends Against Government are having some kind of feud with Robbie the Fire Bernstein.
Well, yeah, did they successfully do that? Because they discussed how they wanted to do that in the show with.
I just saw some
Chris.
stuff.
Is this just so they can self-promote by
Yeah, it was a joke. They were talking about the whole punching up thing. It actually started with a conversation about Mance Raider and the whole spat with Jason Stapleton and how that probably helped Mance grow his show a little bit. And another one of today's sponsors, Free Man Beyond the Wall. But yeah, their expert plan was to start a feud with Robbie the Fire Bernstein, not with Dave Smith, because Dave was too big. So I thought it was kind of funny.
Okay, all right. As long as it's not a real feud, I'd go on their show if they asked me.
All right. Well, did they ask you, or did you? Where did this idea come from?
No, somebody had tweeted it. I think Tasting Anarchy tweeted something about it, and they liked the tweet. But I haven't heard anything from anybody. Maybe they don't know my email address. I don't know. Probably not.
If only you had a Lions of Liberty email address.
If only I had a Lions of Liberty email address, so they could reach out to me.
All right. Well, yeah. Check out the Friends Against Government podcast. Check out Inside McFlugel's Mind. I tuned into their show a little bit. I heard them through Mance Raider's podcast. Jen the Libertarian, she's another up-and-coming podcaster who's been out there. There's a lot of new Liberty podcasts popping up, and I think they all bring a little something to the table. So I want to give them some props wherever we can. Because I was once a floundering Libertarian podcast who could use some mentions now and again.
Jen the Libertarian's got
we can still use the mentions.
Great Twitter
Get out
account,
there
too.
And tell
which we
people
can still
Lions
use, by the way. So everyone that I just mentioned, I hope you mention me 10 times over. That's our going price. It's a 1 to 10 ratio.
Yeah.
All right, so to wrap things up, I'm going to say why don't we each say one good thing that we liked about 2018 and also one prediction for 2019, starting with Howie.
Oh, well, one thing I liked was Libertarian Christmas. I mean, we got troops coming home. We've got criminal justice reform. We've got a government shutdown.
One thing, God damn it, Howie.
No, it's one thing, Libertarian Christmas.
Libertarian
Everybody
Christmas.
else is upset the holiday season's not libertarians. And I guess my prediction will be marijuana will be legalized federally.
Damn it, that was mine. I'll think of another one. Go on. JB.
That was also mine. I was just going to say, because I was thinking, what is really a high point? But, that's
a high point right there.
Yeah, the drug war seems to be losing ground a little bit. We got 2/3 of the states that have medical now, and Michigan just got recreational in November, and New York and New Jersey, and dare I say even Pennsylvania might be pushing that way in 2019, at the very least 2020 as well.
I thought Pennsylvania has it now.
So I think no, we just have medical.
Oh, okay, yeah, because I know some people that get medical.
We're talking about they're making a push of recreational as well. So I'm like, it seems like this domino's finally falling, and once that piece is out of the way, then we can start getting to the more serious topics and get into some real serious drug reform.
LSD.
As long as weed is illegal, I can't even broach the topic of everything else with anyone. So that's the first thing that needs to fall, and then we can get some serious drug reform in this country going. So that was also going to be my high point in prediction.
All right. Well, I'll go with...
we think very low.
I'll say, since you guys have already covered a lot of the bases, I will say that 2019 or 2018, I am very proud of Rand Paul's re-emergence as a force for liberty. renouncing a lot of the former support for Israel, talking about defunding a lot of the money that they were putting out to help them, fighting to stop the war in Yemen, fighting to push forward healthcare reforms. I mean, the guy's really done a lot this year and this past year, and getting Trump's ear is like huge. So good job, Rand. Paul us for that. And in regards to the projection or my prophesizing, I will stick to my earlier prophecy that we're going to see a large amount of troops come home from Korea.
All right. Well, you guys took all my stuff. So,
is there anyone you think will go to jail?
Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton.
Paul Manafort's not in jail yet, is he?
Here's the question. Would Hillary Clinton go to jail first? Do you think if the Clinton Foundation got exposed, do you think Bill would have Hillary killed or vice versa in order to do like a plea deal and take the other one out? So
what if they put the hit on each other and it all cancels out?
Highlighted 2019.
It's like Spy versus Spy around the Clinton house, or like Mr. and Mrs. Smith, where they're both creeping around trying to murder each other.
Hillary, that's my prediction. That's my prediction. I'm using that.
Baby doll.
I'm going to go with a slightly less heralded news story, but a very libertarian one. And it really has gotten hardly any play, and I'm not really sure why. Probably because it's a pro-Trump thing for many people, but not necessarily for like a Democratic talking point. But the fact that they ended the mandate, unilaterally, Trump just said we're not going to enforce this tax anymore. When it comes to Obamacare, meaning, yeah, technically that law still exists that you have to buy health insurance, but currently under this administration, the tax for that is a fine of $0 and the way it's enforced, which I think is really huge. Right. It's no longer punishing people for not buying a product. Now, there's a million other things that need to change in healthcare. But punishing individuals for not buying a terrible product, which is what healthcare has become, I'm not just going to say under Obamacare, but under 30 years of this government-manipulated, cartelized system, not forcing people to buy that anymore with a punishment is a good thing. And it's also had a chain reaction of that ruling in Texas that said because this is no longer a tax, Obamacare is not even constitutional anymore. Now, I don't think that's going to necessarily go anywhere once that gets to higher courts, but it's interesting. And I think health freedom, it's something I've tried to focus on a lot. I try to have a lot of guests that have insight in that area, and I want to continue to do so going forward. But it's one of the biggest issues that's going to matter going forward, because as these generations get older and older, the boomers, and healthcare gets worse and worse, that's going to be the most important thing. It's finding free market solutions to bring healthcare to millions of people that are going to need it, because the government systems are going to fail them. We know this. They're failing them now. They're going to continue to fail them. The more of a free market we can introduce to that, the better. So I think that's my favorite thing. And I'm just going to pile on with the prediction of legal marijuana. And overall, I'm going to make a larger prediction that Trump is going to go hard left on the Democrats as they go into their primary. So I think he's going to go. He might even push this thing that he's been quiet about, but he was big, even during his State of the Union speech, he was big on the maternity leave, federalizing, that sort of stuff. I think he's going to push some things like that, bringing troops home, the criminal justice reform stuff, legalizing marijuana. I think he's going to push all that stuff really hard so that in their Democratic primary debates, he basically forces Democrats to take what would be very typically Democrat/progressive positions in order to just be anti-Trump and to watch heads spin. So that's what I'm looking forward to, because I think that this primary is going to bring out the crazies and the extremists and everything in between. I don't know what's in between crazy and extreme, but I think it's going to really have heads spinning, trying to be anti-Trump while trying to be against some, many policies that would be heralded if, say, Obama or really any other Democrat was doing them. That long enough for you, Brian?
Yes. I was taken aback. I always mispronounce things, but the way you say heralded.
Yeah.
Heralded? What is it, heralded?
I think it's
heralded. Did you say
like
that? I thought you were talking about Geraldo.
Twice the way. I was like,
I just completely.
It's heralded, right, Brian?
Yeah. You're putting
what did I say?
The
I said
emphasis
heralded?
on the wrong syllable.
Whatever. I'm not an English major. I don't know all the words. I don't know all the words for the language. But that's all I got. What do you guys got? We got more. We got more in us, but it's going to be saved for the bonus show, where, factually speaking, we are all going to be drunker than we were about an hour ago.
Truth.
So with that, I believe it is time to do our sign-off. Let's see if we can nail it. Let's see if we can end the year on a positive note, because there's one thing I want you guys to do going into 2019. Only one thing. It's a small thing. And that is to live long That was the best one we ever did.
Let's have a drink, or maybe two, or maybe three, or four, or five, or six, or a seven, or eight, or maybe even more. For old lang syne, my dear, for old lang syne, we'll take a cup of kindness yet for the sake of old lang syne. When it gets too closing time, and if you still want more,